Good evening. Welcome to Crazy X Files. Looks like I have a makeover. Some relationships feel like a fairy tale at first, but sometimes behind the closed doors of a perfect looking romance, the fairy tale is already rotting from the inside. I shall call this episode The Fall.
Hi, my name is Lisa, and for a while I thought I had found the man of my dreams. When I met Simon, he was charming, successful, and so attentive it felt like I had stepped into one of those glossy romance movies. He remembered every little detail about me, my favourite coffee order, the way I liked my hair pulled back when I cooked, even the songs that made me cry. He'd send me texts first thing in the morning and last thing before bed, reminding me how lucky he was to have me. But looking back, I see those attentive habits for what they really were, control disguised as love. At first, I didn't notice it creeping in. He'd ask me to text him when I got somewhere. Just so I know you're safe. If I went out with friends, he'd call to say goodnight, his voice warm, but always laced with subtle questions. Who's there? How late will you be? It sounded like concern. It felt like love. The turning point was the day he handed me a brand new phone. "This is for you," he said with that dashing smile, "just so I can always reach you." What I didn't know then was that he'd installed monitoring software. He could read my texts, listen to my calls, track my location, and I wouldn't find out until much, much later. In the beginning, life with Simon felt luxurious. His apartment had a sweeping view of the Sydney skyline, with glass walls that made the city look like it belonged to us. We'd have dinner parties with his friends, and he'd hold my hand the whole time, like I was the most precious thing in the room. But that glass-walled apartment, it wasn't just a home, it was a cage. Over time, Simon's rules grew stricter. He didn't like my friends. They were bad influences. My mother called too much. "She's meddling," he'd say. Slowly, without realizing it, I stopped calling people back. I stopped going out unless he approved it. I began living on his schedule, on his terms. One night, I wore a dress he hadn't seen before, a soft lilac colour that made me feel beautiful. But when I came into the living room, his eyes went cold. "Who bought that for you?" he asked. "I did," I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Take it off, it's not appropriate." That night, I changed into jeans and a hoodie. He wrapped his arms around me, kissed my forehead, and said, "You're perfect now." It was the first time I felt a pang of something dark in my chest. Not fear, not yet, but the awareness that maybe I was no longer living my own life. Simon's controlling streak deepened. He set up security cameras inside the apartment, claiming it was for protection. But they weren't pointed at the door. They were pointed at me. One morning, while he was out, I tried to cover one of the cameras with a scarf. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. "Why did you block the camera?" His voice was low, dangerous. I froze. "It fell," I lied. "Don't ever lie to me again, Lisa. You don't know what I'm capable of." That was the first time I realized he could hurt me. I began sneaking little moments of independence. I'd go to the cafe downstairs while he was at work, just to breathe without eyes on me. The barista, a kind older man named Daniel, started to notice I seemed nervous. One day he slipped me a piece of paper with his number and whispered, "If you ever need help." I still have that paper. The breaking point came after an argument about my phone. Simon accused me of deleting messages, which I had, but only ones from my mother begging me to come home. He grabbed my wrist so hard I thought it might snap. Then, as suddenly as it started, he let go, smoothed my hair and said, I'm sorry. You make me crazy sometimes. That night, I called my mother from the bathroom, whispering like I was in a spy movie. I told her I needed to leave. We made a plan. I'd pack my things and go while Simon was at work the next day. But Simon must have sensed it. The next morning, he was in an unusually good mood. Let's have breakfast on the balcony, he suggested. The winter air was crisp, and from the 15th floor, the city looked peaceful, but I felt my stomach twist. He stood too close behind me, his hands resting on my shoulders in a way that felt less like affection and more like ownership. Then he whispered, "If you ever try to leave me, Lisa, I'll make sure no one else ever has you." I told myself to stay calm, to get through the day, to wait until he was gone. But I didn't get the chance. What happened next still plays in my head in flashes. His voice raised, my heartbeat pounding in my ears, his hand gripping my arm, the glass balcony rail pressing into my back. And then, I don't remember the fall, just the cold air rushing past me, the sickening weightlessness, and then nothing. I didn't survive to tell this story, but I need you to hear it, to know that the charming smile that sweeps you off your feet can hide the darkest of hearts, that love should never feel like surveillance, that someone who loves you will never cage you. My mother tells my story now, warning others about men like Simon, men who confuse love with possession, men who think they own you. I only wish I had left sooner.
Sometimes the most dangerous places in the world, one that feels the safest, and sometimes the person who swears they love you the most, who takes everything from you. If you have a story, maybe you can share it, and you can be one of the crazy X-Files.